The Creators Circle is a weekly call for creators like you to ask your questions about the law of attraction. To get information on how to connect, please go to cocreationcoaching.org/Creators Circle.
Hey everyone, welcome to Creators Circle. This is call number 11, and we have our favorite people here with us today.
Yay! Because no one else likes to join us.
Well, they are, except for Justin. Justin couldn't come today because he's busy
Justin.
with something. Yeah. So, today is, as always, a chance to talk about attraction and a few things. Well, I don't know. We'll just see where the conversation goes. I will start with you guys, though. What is on your minds? What things you want to discuss? What questions might you have?
One thing I've been thinking about is, have you ever had something you're working on and you've been working on it for a while, and it just, every time you think about it, it's just, this is so hard. Even if, like, rationally, you're like, it's not that difficult. But, like, that the reaction is just automatically like, ugh.
Because of the history of it.
Yeah.
Right, okay. How long have you been trying to get that?
This one's been a couple months.
Couple months.
Yeah.
And any progress?
No.
No progress. Why?
I guess because it seems hard. I don't know.
Seems hard.
Oh boy.
That's fair enough, all right.
Yeah, it's just one of those ones where, like, I don't know, because I can have moments where I'm like, oh, no, that wouldn't be that difficult, and then other times I'm like, oh, this just seems hard.
How much are you thinking about it?
Because it's kind of an ongoing issue.
Okay.
It does tend to pop up.
So, like, what percentage of your day is dedicated to worrying or thinking about this issue?
It's sort of always in the background, honestly.
Always in the background. Okay. It kind of feeds into what I wanted to talk about. So,
yay!
There is something that I am preliminarily calling the watched pot effect, and I've talked. I come up with awesome names, don't I?
Yeah.
The watched pot effect, and I just posted about this because someone in Art of Reality Creation 3 class just asked a similar question about why things never happen in the way that she expects them to happen. And so I got to talk about the watched pot effect. I've alluded to this concept in the past, but I will go into it much more deeply. So the watched pot effect is basically from the expression that a watched pot never boils.
That's
And
so true.
yeah, and you know we've talked about this before. And as far as, like, let's say in kind of a quantum perspective, the observer effect, where you know, as long as you're observing something, it can't change.
Yeah.
When you observe something, it collapses the wave function. As long as you keep observing it, it can't uncollapse, you know? I guess let's expand. I don't know if I'd use that. But, you know, it can't switch over to another parallel reality or another probability, you know. It has to stay where it is. When you look away and give it, some time, could be an instant, and then you look back, it could shift. But as long as you're constantly looking at it, it has to be what it is. Right? That makes sense?
Yeah.
So when you, and I've done this, when you have this manifestation that you've been thinking about all in the background, all the time, every day for months, you're never looking away from it. And because the reality you're looking at is, I don't have this, and you can't let yourself look away long enough, because if I look away, then I can't get it because, my attention's not always on it. Then, The watched pot's not going to boil, so to speak. It's not going to change. It can't change as long as you're looking at it. If you were to take your eyes off of it or your attention off of it for a day, probably see progress. Or maybe at the longest a few days. You know what I mean? Probably see some kind of breakthrough.
Yeah. And this one's hard because this particular one is a money issue, which is getting a little dire.
Right. I totally get that. You
Yeah.
know I've told my story about September of 2015. You're familiar with that one?
Yeah.
And how it was very, very dire, and I told myself I refused to panic. You know, and I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm beating a dead horse with this, but the ego likes to try to make things happen, you know, likes to try to force things and figure out how to do things and whatnot. And, you know, it just can't do that. As long as it's trying to do that, you can't actually get your thing. So one of the principles I have been recently focusing on is that as long as you are holding it, you can't receive it. What I mean by that, until you let it go, you can't receive it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you're watching, as long as you're messing with it, as long as you're thinking about it, it's not out there actually creating, actually developing, actually growing in, you know, in the astral or whatever. So when you take your mind off of it is when it'll grow. And it's hard, especially when it's something that is dire. But there's no shortcut around it. You really have to take your mind off of it, at least for a time, and trust and let go and all that kind of stuff. There's no shortcut around it. That is the absolute essential step in the whole thing.
Yeah, it's hard when, like, you know, you're not really paying attention to what you're thinking, and then you realize you've been worrying about it for the past hour in, like, kind of a, you know, vague background way.
I get that, yeah. And I've had things where something's been nagging at my, you know, the back of my mind for a few days, and then eventually I just say, all right, look, we're going to take care of this. We're going to enter this mindfulness state, and I'm just going to get this thing out and let that energy flow through. If you just don't give it the room it needs to kind of do its thing and flow through, it's just going to keep nagging at the back of your mind. If you give it that space, if you take a few minutes and say, all right, have it out, you know, let's hear what you have to say and let the energy flow and be mindful and don't get sucked up into it and that kind of thing. If you can do that, it might take 10 minutes, it might take 15 minutes, but if you can do that, you're going to be in a far better space, you know, the rest of today, you know, into tomorrow and onward, than if you just let it nag at you. It's not just going to go away.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to kind of take that space and just do what you have to do to let it go. You know, and this is productive time. This is not worrying time where you're actually like kind of worsening it and intensifying it. This is releasing time where you are letting it have its voice and then just sort of letting it flow through and out of your system. That it's just a necessary step. And that happens to me a lot where, you know, I deal with anxiety too.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if you can do that, where you can take the anxiety and say, all right, whatever, you know, have your time and let it flow, that makes it a lot better. Have you done something like that?
It's usually hard not to get sucked up in it, honestly.
Okay.
When it's as bad as it has been.
Right. What is it that prevents you from being able to take that step and work on letting go?
I know this is not a rational worry, but it's sort of the worry that if I let it go to its own thing, things are just going to get worse. Like that, it's hard to tell.
I know what you mean.
When I'm releasing it versus like when I'm just ignoring the issue.
Yes, right. And that's a good question. How do you know when you're releasing it? How do you know when you're ignoring it? For me, when I'm releasing it, it actually momentarily gets worse. Okay, So imagine I'm trying to think of an example, like someone's trying to get your attention and you're kind of ignoring it, and so they're still there and it's nagging at you, and they keep calling your name and like, hey, I want to talk to you, hey, and you keep ignoring it. When you finally say, oh, what's up, for a moment, like you have that, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this, and it sort of like gets worse for a moment, and then once it's done, they're out and it's done. You've heard what they had to say, they're done, they're not going to bother you anymore, and you've taken care of the issue. At first, it's sort of, or when you have like a task that you've been ignoring for a while, you ever have that happen where you have this, you have this thing that you need to do, but you haven't done it for a while, and it's kind of just there, and finally you do it, and at first it's like, how am I going to get all this done? And it's sort of overwhelming, and then once it's done, it feels a lot better.
Yeah.
That's to me how it is. So when I'm ignoring it, it's that nagging in the back of my mind, like this needs to get taken care of. When I sit down and let it just do its thing and address it, at first it becomes worse because I'm actually looking at it and actually letting it do its thing. So that at first it actually feels worse when it's kind of inundating me with what it has to express, and then it starts to get better, and you can tell it's like it's flowing through your system and it's actually going away. And obviously, when you are actually worrying about it, it will continue to feel worse. You won't have that release, that it's like the pressure valve is open and it's draining out. You won't have that happen. It'll just be building up. That's when you're worrying about it. So it's kind of a subtle difference, I guess, but that's how I distinguish what is actually going on energetically. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and something I used to do, like even before starting to do law of attraction stuff, was sometimes just like free write, and I'd usually stop halfway through and be like, "Oh, this is actually sort of stupid," but I'm worried about. Like, you just stop halfway through and be like, "Oh, well, all right, don't need to finish that." So I guess it's sort of the same exercise, because I have a little bit of trouble like sitting there and just like, mindfulness is hard for me. I just have a really hard time sitting there and watching the thoughts without interacting with them, or like kind of shying away from them.
It's a process. It definitely is something that takes some work. And I mean, there are other ways. I mean, I use sometimes, if it's like a kind of like beliefs that are coming up, I will sometimes use the work of Byron Katie. Through that kind of stuff. I've used that with clients a lot of times, and that can definitely help. But when it's just like in the moment, when it's really intense, sometimes there's no substitute for just some good mindfulness. And I know that with you especially, you've had a ton of trouble in the past with trust and letting go, and you feel like if you're not directly involved, thinking about it, focusing on it, worrying about it, it's not going to get done.
I'll tell you. Can I tell a quick story?
Yeah.
So last week, I was kind of inundated because I got called on Thursday, and I was told that I had to do a wedding next Saturday. The bride hadn't gotten a hold of me. I didn't know about this wedding. The wedding is this Saturday. Mm-hmm. When you do music for a church, usually you have to do all this classical music and blah, 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 before the wedding starts. So I was freaking out. So yesterday I called the person at the church and pretty much said, if I don't hear anything by Tuesday, I'm not doing this, because I just wasn't going to deal with it. So I got a call and I just was like, okay, I'm done worrying about this. And, every time, like when I'd get angry, I'd be like, okay, I don't know what the real situation is. I'm just going to let it go. I'm like, God, this is for you. I can't handle this. I can't deal with it. I have enough to deal with this week. So you handle it. I threw it at him, pretty much. So today I got a call from her, and the toughest thing to play is the wedding march. There are two wedding marches usually, at the beginning and at the end. They usually have. And so I got a call from the bride this afternoon, and guess what? One of her friends, who is a guitar player, is taking care of those parts. and said, "You choose the rest of the music." So that took a huge load off my shoulders.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
And that's when I just let it go. And I was like, you know what? I can't worry about this. I have a gig on Friday night. I have something going on in the morning for music. I can't deal with it. Yeah. So I just let it go. And guess what? It worked perfectly. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. And I've totally had experiences like that. It's just like, I don't know, when it's something really huge, something in my brain kicks in and goes, oh, well, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. And
it would have been
literally nothing I can do.
The only thing I did was inspired, and I told her how frustrated I was, the person at the church. That's all I did. I didn't try. I mean, last week I tried to find her on Facebook, the bride, and couldn't, and the groom, and I couldn't. I was like, okay, I did all I can do.
Right. So at some point you just have to give up and, what, I can't do anything. And that's when it happens, right?
Yep.
You've done your part. So for you, I would question that belief, and you can use the work with this if you want. Like, okay, if I don't directly keep focusing on worrying about it, it won't get done. Is that true? And how do I react when I believe that? And what would life be like? Who would I be if I didn't believe that? If I didn't hold that belief? And, really do your best to see through that. And, so I think that's really the biggest way that you're going to get through this, and try to find examples when you let go, that things worked out for you. I'm sure you can find them, because that's the only time it really does work out. Right?
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I would look for. And you just really have to, at some point the rubber has to meet the road, and there's just no shortcut. And you just have to say, you know what, there's no silver bullet, there's no secret. It's just that I just have to let go at some point,
Yeah.
That's about all there is to it,
And I might just need to, let my subconscious kick and scream for a little bit, because initially when you're like, okay, I'm not going to worry about this, it goes, but you have to worry about this.
Right.
If you don't worry about it, something terrible is going to happen, so you should just keep worrying your life away.
Right. But are the terrible things happening when you're worrying about it, or when you're not worrying about it?
Mostly when I'm worried about it, honestly.
Yeah.
And I've had such amazing things happen when I haven't even put that much effort in, when I've just been like,
that's the point.
I want this thing to happen, and I just sort of give it over to the gods. And then, I know one example I gave a while back was I did a dispatching shift for my bus company, and it was on the first Friday of the semester at my university, and it should have been terrible. And it was super quiet. And I've even talked to other people who are like, I don't know what was going on that night, but no one was out at the bars. And I'm like, okay, so the entire town just didn't show up for a night. That's pretty big.
Because you didn't want it to.
And I was just, and I did worry about it for a little bit. I'm like, oh, this is a terrible idea. Why did I do this to myself? Yep. And then I was like, I can't control these other people, so I'm just gonna, gods, please make it not care.
I think the greatest thing you can do at this point is just let go a little bit. Like, say, okay, for the next hour, I am not going to think about this at all. At all. And if you find yourself going there, like, no, I'm not going to think about it, I'm going to go in a different direction, and distract yourself. Whatever you have to do to distract yourself. And, even Richard Dotz, one of the techniques he recommended was having, kind of the opposite of this, having a worry time where you say, okay, I'm not allowed to worry all day, but from this time, for these 15 minutes, that's when I get all my worrying in. And then after that, I'm not allowed to worry anymore, or before that. If you can do that, but even if you just say, you know what, there's 1 hour, a worry-free zone. I'm just not allowed to worry or think about this thing for that hour. And if you can let go just that little bit, you might start to see things happening. Maybe not amazing things because you're still kind of holding on, but if you can just let go a little bit, some stuff can start to slip through, and you might start to see some progress. Mm-hmm. But just what's the smallest thing you can do to just let go that tiniest little bit, and let the universe take over. And that's what I would do. It's just, I always say over and over again that the law of attraction takes spiritual development, because there's no shortcut around it. It's not just visualizing and wishing and it gets done and putting on your vision board or whatever. Like, it really does take spiritual development, because you really do have to actually let go of the thing, or it's never going to happen. And I never really knew exactly what that meant until very recently, because a lot of people, the way they describe letting go is just kind of messed up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it is so essential.
I think that might be part of my problem, is there's a lot of baggage around the phrasing letting it go, because a lot of teachers talk about letting go of the desire completely.
Right, yes.
Like letting go of the end result. And really, the end result's what you
Yeah, and I don't agree with any of that. All of that's sort of stupid, in my opinion. Yeah. And so it's not any of that. It's trust. It's like, okay, this is what I want. I definitely do want it, but I trust the universe to get me there.
Yeah.
And, so if you can do that, then it'll be a lot better. Like, one thing I've been doing is I can't say too much about this, because a lot of it was taught in the Art of Reality Creation class, and that's still available for sign-up, so I don't want to give away too much. It wouldn't be fair to those people. But I enter basically, the very basic essential feeling state of the goal. I call it kind of the goal seed. Just feeling like the very essence of the goal. And I let that kind of fill my being, and I let it go, and I just say thank you to the universe. Like, this is over to you. You're taking care of it. Thank you. And, that helps me to let it go more. So, me saying thank you to the universe has really been helping to trust, to kind of let it go more and not be worrying about it so much. But, you can kind of experiment and see what works for you. But you have to take that step and just find a way to let go of it, or to trust, or whatever word you want to use for it. But find a way to do that, because there's no way around it. There's no getting around that requirement. That's kind of a basic requirement for this to work.
Yeah.
So does that make sense to you? Do you have any other questions around that?
No, that makes sense.
Awesome. Yeah. PK, I thought when I asked your question earlier, I thought I heard you about to say something. I didn't know if you were.
Not about this. I'm actually finding this just pulling so many things into place. I've always wanted to know the how and the why. And suddenly you saying it like this makes me realize why you have to release it and just let that, I don't know, pool of possibilities or whatever.
Yeah.
Bring it back to you. It just awesome. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I have had trouble with letting things go, because usually the things that you're working on are so in your face, and you need to deal with now.
Right.
And it feels like you have to kind of keep your hands on the wheel and keep driving it, even though I know that release has always been part of the picture. I know that. Yeah. But now it will make it easier to let it go so that it can reform how I want it.
Exactly. That's how it feels sometimes. Again, that's how the ego kind of formulates things. Like, I have to keep control. I have to keep this moving. I have to keep focusing on it, and or doing actions, or like whatever form that might take for you. But the ego kind of says it. So people with really strong egos, and that's not in. So I'm not saying like you're egoic. It's just saying you have a really strong ego that doesn't want to let go. Have trouble with this, because it's required to kind of step out of the ego and more into spirit and sort of go with the flow and trust. I've been saying a lot lately that, and you've seen this in the LOA deep dive posts, my series on the path of manifestation, the 4 levels. And last week I said about how, basically your job is to choose it, to plant that seed, give it over to the universe, and then create the openness inside yourself. You're not actually doing anything after you give it over to the universe. Your job is to create the openness within yourself. Creating the openness means making the space, making the room inside yourself for it to be to enter in, to be delivered. And that's your job. That's your only job. And that's like receiving. It's making room to receive. And if you're worried, if you're trying to make things happen, you're not in a place of receiving. And so I've been kind of stealing Abraham's term, the receptive mode, because it fits here. And being in that place of receiving, or the receptive mode, where things can just enter in, can just be delivered to you, where you have that openness. That's the main thing you want to focus on. The choosing part's really easy. I mean, I still say to focus on it regularly because it forces you to create that openness. But, it's not, you can't keep focusing on it. You have to enter in that place of being receptive, of receiving, of creating that openness. And that's what it's really all about, not the acting and the trying and the, that kind of stuff. It's this passive sort of thing.
Yeah, I liked that analogy that you had of, well, I might not have this absolutely exact how you wrote it, but, making an order on Amazon for a new bedroom suite. And
right.
And clearing out the old bedroom suite because you know that it's coming, so you're making space for that new one to come in. And that made little fireworks and sparkies for me too.
Yeah, because if it's at your door and they're like, where are we going to put this? I haven't really removed the old one yet, so I don't, and then you can't come in, and then just sort of clogging up the works. And,
What do you think about going a step ahead? So I know I always go on about my car, but say, say I went ahead and I sold my car. Mm-hmm. Would that create enough of a vacuum that another car would have to come in?
Okay, so that is where structural tension comes in. I've talked about structural tension before. It depends on you. Now, theoretically, yes, that'd be a great move, but not if you're going to get hit with more resistance. And if you can't trust. Now, okay, I'll give an example in my life. I recently, since April, I started my full-time job. And over time, I realized that was not my soul's purpose. It was kind of draining me. I did not want to do it. And so my coach said, why don't you go part-time? I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I can go part-time. That's kind of scary. And she said, could you afford it to keep up that, that difference for a few months until your business built up? I say, I think so. So last month, beginning of September, I went part-time. And that gave me, that extra space in my life. And then I've been one of the things my coach told me to do, she said, schedule, write on your calendar, these are the times I have clients, and make these like client spaces on your calendar. And during that time, even if you don't have a client, go in your office, do the work, like do some kind of work on your business, even when you don't have a client. That way it's kind of telling the universe, hey, I'm open for clients.
And he's there all the time in his office.
Yeah, I'm here all the time. I'm here right now. So I started doing that, and it really worked, and things really started taking off. And so there's this openness, there's a structure. Now, it would be easy for me to be like, oh my God, I'm not going to have that much money anymore from my other job. And what if this doesn't happen? And sometimes I get tempted to go down that road, and I just don't let myself, at least not for long. If I do the thing I told to I told Chaucer earlier, and I just let the anxiety have its way, have its voice, flow through me. And I'm like, you know what? Things are awesome right now. And it's just going to keep getting better. And so that structural tension invites more clients to come, my business to grow. And same kind of thing. I have a goal. I won't say when the time frame here, but I have a goal to pretty soon, sooner than later, quit my job altogether. And I think it's going to be possible. I told Christine, I know for a fact that the latest I'll have to do it is the end of this year. But my goal is sooner than that, but I won't say the exact date because that'd be too much resistance for me. But I know for a fact it will be by the end of this year. And I'm choosing for it to be sooner. And that is more structural tension because I have to make up the difference and the business has to grow. So that kind of thing, if you can do that and trust, it's like people who ask, should I quit my job and pursue my passion? If you can trust and you know that you'll be able to make up the difference, then yes. If it's just going to create a ton of anxiety for you, then no. So it just depends on you and your situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you sold your car and then you're like, wait, now what am I going to do? I kind of need a car. Like it has to come by this time or else I'm really, really messed up. It's not probably a great idea. But if you do it and you're like, okay, now I really feel that tension. I really feel that I need to do this. I really feel that space where a car needs to be. And so I'm just going to create space inside myself. Then that could really be a powerful impetus to cause it to come. But, largely when I'm talking about creating openness, it's mostly an energetic thing where you're creating inside yourself where you're saying, you know what, I'm expecting a car and I'm creating that openness within myself and the universe just has to deliver. And there's that room inside me for that to happen. There's no blockages. When I think about it, I feel peace. I don't feel anxiety. I don't feel resistance, that kind of thing. That's what I mean by creating openness.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's this, I keep going back to Taoism because that's really a great framework for seeing all this stuff because, if it's like Taoism is all about that minimum effort, that path of least resistance where you're not really trying or you're trying as little as you need to, that wu-wei non-doing sort of thing. And, if you feel like you're struggling, if you feel like you're trying to do something, you're doing it wrong. And if you feel like, actually I had someone email me the other day that said this perfectly. He basically said, I just decide that this is going to happen. And I said this is my lingo, my verbiage a lot last year, end of 2016. Just decide your goal is going to happen. A lot of us aren't to that space where we can actually do that yet. So you have to kind of transition. But he said, I just decide that's going to happen. And then I don't worry about it, and that's basically what it is. You choose. That's why I say choose it and then let it go to the universe. Keep choosing it every day and letting it go to the universe. But don't worry about it. Just trust and take that kind of passive letting go, trusting stance. And it'll happen really quickly. It really will.
I've got to admit that some of the big things that have gone right to the wire for me, maybe even beyond the wire.
Yeah.
And I have actually, put it out to the universe. This is non-negotiable. This is going to happen.
Yep.
It has to happen. There's just no other way around it.
Yep.
And it does. It has.
Well, Chaucer, I liked what you said the other day a lot. I don't think I got to respond to it yet. But your email about, those dire situations where we access that place where it just has to happen.
Yeah.
And, so we let that, we get to that place and then it does. But if we can if we can train ourselves to get to that place where, okay, this just has to happen because I'm deciding it and I'm going to trust because there's no other choice without actually making it that dire, it'd be pretty set, right? I mean, that's kind of the sweet spot there that we need to get to.
Yeah, it definitely is something that for me had gotten tied to, making circumstances dire.
Dire, yeah.
Which, doesn't need to happen.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
No, yeah. I was talking with my family about this the other day because they've been, reading a bunch of your posts, and we've been talking about law of attraction and magic. And I had mentioned, I'm like, do you ever just get like really angry about something and just be like, screw it, this is going to happen, and then it happens? And they're like, no, but you're usually more determined than the rest of us. So I'm getting mad. I think it's the determination.
That's right.
I'm like, no, that's, yeah, I misattributed it.
Well, that's like me when I like to set deadlines for myself. I know this doesn't work for all of you, but it works for me really well. And the reason is because I'm really good at manifesting under pressure. And so what I'll do is I'll say, I want this goal by the end of the month. And so, the first 2 weeks of the month, I'm sort of like, hey, I have a while to go. Things are okay. And then by week 3, I'm like, hang on a second. I have like 2 more weeks to get this done. And then it's the last week. I'm like, oh my gosh, this has to happen now. And then it does. Because I'm really, really set on this. It just has to happen. I mean, it's an arbitrary goal because it's like, it's not a dire thing, but I make it non-negotiable for myself. Okay, this has to happen by the end of this month. So the closer the end of the month approaches, the more I'm like, it's going to happen. And I really better get things together because, we're almost there. And a lot of times I'll get things within like 5 days. Last month is within 5 days of the end of the month. I've had things on the very last day come together. Haven't had that since the last time that happened was last November, but I had my monthly goal happen on the very last day of the month. But usually it's in the last week. One day I'll learn to pace myself better, but for now that's my that's my secret for getting things to happen in my life. It's like set a goal and then really stress about it when it comes close. I'm sorry, that's horrible advice, but it works for me.
And you have anxiety.
And I have anxiety, but it just kicks me in gear. So it works for me. I don't know. It just figure out what works for you.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the anxiety and the whole feeling like you need to do something.
Yeah,
if you have a lot of that. Yeah. Then it's just going to spiral and crash and burn.
Right. Yeah. Awesome.
I've always thought that it was that I put so much more will into it in that state where this has got to happen and it's got to happen today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
That there's just so much more power in my will. And I think up to that point, I'm sort of a little bit more relaxed about it. And perhaps the power isn't there to drive it.
And I've discussed power as one of the stages of this, or one of the components, one of the forces. So the parting thought I have here is that it's this dynamic balance, and it's so hard to get it right. People they're either too set on it, where they're like, it has to happen, and what if it doesn't? Kind of what's going on with you, Chaucer.
Yeah.
And other people are like, yeah, it'd be awesome if it happened, and whatever, and then it doesn't happen either because it's just not powerful enough. We have to set this balance between this is going to happen because I said so. It has to, but I can let it go to the universe for it to do its part. I'm just going to set the intention really strongly. I'm going to really put my will out there. But I'm not going to slave away to try to make this happen with my ego. That's the balance. It's this persistence and yet this sort of letting go, this trust. That's the balance we have to reach. And I feel like it's really hard to get that perfectly right. Because if you do it too passively, it won't work. If you do it too strongly, it won't work. You have to just get that balance right on. And that's really the biggest secret. And, you'll get that with experience as you go. But for me, that's what it is. Just like you said, PK, it's this, okay, I'm going to this is going to happen because it's just going to, but I can let it go. I can, trust the universe to do the rest. Is that kind of how you experience it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think what you're trying to do is a bit like teaching someone to ski just by telling them about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like at some stage we're just going to have to push off and do it for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Try this for yourself. I mean, it does work. When you get to that place where you just know this stuff does work, then you can experiment and say, okay, what works, what doesn't work, and then figure it out for yourself. I think of a lot of us kind of have this lingering doubt, like, am I fooling myself? Like, am I just sort of, like, what if this is all stupid and not actually real? And so we keep ourselves a little too close to home there, Chaucer.
Yeah, no, I've had a couple of moments of just like, am I just totally nuts?
Yeah, I used to get that a lot. I mean, I've seen it so much now that I don't get that. But so we keep ourselves from experimenting because we have that secret fear. What if this isn't actually real? I'm just sort of being loony.
That was just coincidence.
But that's the balance you have to hit. So, great topic though. It's awesome, and hopefully that helps. And so, we'll be here next week for another Creator Circle. And for those listening, you can get the transcript if you sign up below this recording. Feel free to leave comments about what you think about our topics today, or ask your own questions. And otherwise, we will see you guys next week.
Alrighty, sounds
Thanks for
good.
all the questions today. It was awesome.
This was fun.
Thank you.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.